Hello everyone, I'm Paleo Parks, and welcome to another episode of PRIMEAVAL Sanctuary, where I'll be building an Australovenator habitat right in front of our new guest section. The guest section will also house not just plenty of seating for our guests, but also some little enclosures housing a pack of teeny tiny theropods. Hello everyone, welcome to the building segment of this video, and I just want to say, I firmly believe that this is probably my best guest section in this entire park. And not only that, it probably houses my best enclosure in this entire park. And I keep saying that every single video, but this time I actually believe that this little taiga enclosure housing the Australovenator is one that probably takes the cake in this park so far. Now, every time I build with taiga for my enclosure, something just clicks, right? You know, like when you have writer's block, or, you know, it's evolution 2, so we'll call it builder's block. When you have no idea what to build, it's the exact opposite when I'm building with taiga. When I'm building with taiga, I suffer from the exact opposite of builder's block. I just can't stop building. But anyways, let's get back to what we're actually looking at on the screen right now. We're working on a goat enclosure right now, because it's not a park made by me if there isn't a goat enclosure, because goats, G-O-A-T, greatest of all time. Goats are the goats, alright? It's just quite self-explanatory. So that's why I need to pay homage to our goats, because of course, without them, our carnivores wouldn't be able to eat, and our park wouldn't be able to gain as much money as they did. Now, in the Australovenator enclosure, I spent way too much time with the terraforming, especially with terrain. I cut most of it out, mostly because it took way too long. But my main goal with the terraforming was just to make something that was very dry and very just like a bunch of terrain differences. Not like massive mountains in the backdrop, just like small hills and all that stuff. Nothing too crazy. I just wanted to make it dry, nothing too fancy, dry with a bunch of rocks and a bunch of taiga trees. That's pretty much my entire goal. I originally wanted it to be a desert, but I already had a dedicated desert enclosure a couple maybe meters back in this park for the Allosaurus, so I decided to skip out on that and just work on some taiga stuff, because once again, I have to say, taiga and sometimes even temperate are the best trees in this game. Alright, there's just so much height variation in the taiga trees that it's just so hard to stop building. Okay, it's not like tropical, where most of the trees are very big and you only got a small collection of tiny trees, or even for the desert trees, where pretty much all trees are kind of tiny, right? So you can't place as much. It's the exact opposite with taiga, right? Because you get this like so much height differences, and I feel like height is a massive part of making your enclosures feel more real, and that's why it's just hard to stop building with them. Anyway, I should stop yapping about how much I love the taiga trees and talk about these little circular enclosures right here in this guest area. This one I'm working on right now, I believe, will house the Coelophysis, or maybe the Consignathus, but yeah, right now I'm just placing some light posts and some rocks around the light posts so that our Coelophysis don't bite into the lights, because, you know, these lights are expensive, right? We bought them from Biosyn, and we don't want our companions at Biosyn being quite disappointed that we broke all their lights. Well, we didn't break them technically, but, you know, our Coelophysis did, so whatever. Also, speaking of tiny theropods, I did place some Troodons inside of the Australovenator habitat. They were just a tad bit too big to place in these tiny little circular enclosures, so I just said, hey, why not just place them in the Australovenator habitat? They're not going to eat each other. After all, the Troodon is pretty neutral with most species, as with most small theropods. Like, you can literally put a Compsognathus with a Triceratops, and they will be completely fine. It's just that the small theropods, they're very chill guys, right? They're not going to do anything to you unless you're a goat. Alright, and that's why I placed the goats in a different enclosure than the Coelophysis and Compies. But now, we are working on the guest section. I deleted most of the guest section, mainly because I didn't enjoy the way it looked. It just looked a bit weird, but then I just said, hey, whatever. I placed it all back, took a good look at it, and I was like, okay, you know what, it ain't that bad. And it really ain't that bad. I'm looking at it again, actually. Looking at it again, it really isn't that bad. Alright, it's better than most of the guest sections I've made, not just in this park, but in this entire game. So I'm pretty proud of that achievement I've made with my guest section. I also like this little thing I did with the luxury path. I'm placing some chairs on it right now. It's just this nice and fancy thing. I believe in a while I'm going to line it with some rock planters soon enough after I place these chairs. It's just planters. They make everything better, right? I lined some fencing with planters earlier on, and here are the water fountains, which I have to say, right, fountains are massive. Okay, fountains are a brilliant and easy and simple way to fill space in your parks, right? I'm playing some helix fountains right now, and they just fill up the space in your parks really quickly. There's small fountains, big fountains, bigger fountains, and yeah, if there's something I love equally, if not more than tiger trees, it's probably the water fountains. Actually, no, I take that back. Actually, I love the goats more than I love the tiger trees. I mean, they're just so good, right? Like, goats are epic, okay? Goats are good food, both for our dinosaurs and for our human beings. Our human beings? Like, I'm storing human beings in this park. Jaden is an alien, confirmed. Whatever, I'm talking about weird, unnecessary stuff that have nothing to do with this video. I'm not an alien, guys. I promise. Wink, wink. Anyway, I'm working on this weird Malta formation with these Malta walls. I'm talking way too fast. I need to slow down, man. I bet you guys don't know what I'm saying. I am talking way too fast. But yeah, I placed some Malta stuff in the guest area just to add a bit of extra stuff just to fill the space a bit more. And right now I'm working on these this one's a Coelophysis enclosure, the other one was a Compy enclosure, and I'm just doing a bunch of terrain paints. I didn't do anything too extravagant with the terrain itself, mainly because it's such a tiny enclosure, and if you try and make a massive mountain, it will just not work out. But anyway, that's all I really need to say right now. Let's move on to some cinematic shots and the outro. Now, I firmly believe this is one of my best enclosures in this entire park. I keep saying that in every single video nowadays, so don't be too surprised if I say it in the next one. But hey, I guess it's kind of a good thing. Anyway, I'm also not too fond of building guest sections usually, but this one actually turned out pretty great, both from an aerial perspective and from a first-person view. I also really love these Celio and Compy enclosures snuggled right in front of the guest section. It gives a nice little something to look at whilst you're eating. Speaking of eating, the Austros seem to always eat non-stop. It is hard to catch a time where there isn't at least one Australovenator either killing a goat or feeding off the meat feeders that the Troodons feed off of. But yeah, that's all I really gotta say for this build. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day, and see you next time.